Hello and welcome to this edition of Beyond the Politics, a regular examination of the events happening right here in the Quinte region and the people who work so hard behind the scenes to make it all happen. I'm your host, Paul Martin. Joining me, two councillors from Belleville, now having just finished our Christmas break and not that far away, our first chance to talk to them since their election victory just over 2 months ago. From Ward 1, top vote getter in that ward, Tyler Allsopp.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
And also first time elected councillor, Kathryn Brown.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
I hope both of your holidays were very good, and welcome to the first show of 2023. And on behalf of everyone here at Beyond the Politics, I hope you had a happy, safe, and enjoyable holiday season, and that all the best things come to you this year in 2023. And I'm sure my guests would do the same.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself.
But first, it was a rather interesting Christmas period for many of us here in the Quinte region, especially friends in Prince Edward County who were hit with the worst of it, though no area escaped the recent storm unscathed. So let's talk about that. Being in the role with the new council for only 2 months, you were sort of thrust into the spotlight as the entire area was basically hammered by this winter storm, and you had to start communicating with staff and citizens about what was happening as far as getting things back in order. As much as it happened fairly quickly in Belleville, what was that like? Kathryn, we'll start with you.
Well, in reality, we had two storms. We had the first one that was the wet and heavy, and I think our transportation staff did an amazing job in terms of trying to get it clear because it came so fast. But personal experience, the second storm that started on the 23rd, made for very interesting times. In my home, we lost power for just over 48 hours. No heat, no hydro. Sleeping in a parka and boots was quite interesting to stay warm. And then once the power was restored, thanks to hydro working in crazy conditions, then because we're on a well, we lost the pressure tank on our well. So we had no water for a further 8 hours. So it made for very interesting times. And the view from my home is I actually look at the county. And of course we were seeing all the reports out of the county and how bad things were there. And it's sort of like I'm the audience, I'm the captive audience watching it all unfold, the weather coming and going. But again, thanks to our city staff, they were able to assist with Prince Edward County. And at the end of it, 2022 went out like a lamb with a spring-like temperature and gentle rain.
Tyler, what was it like for you, and as well would you like to add your thanks to the city workers? Because some people may not know how much Belleville really moved into Prince Edward County to help clear roadways. Yeah,
it's a massive undertaking when you have a storm like this, and we have a great emergency management team. Obviously, transit and operations staff did a fantastic job in Belleville, and I think one of the best things that happened from a city perspective was the communication with the public, managing those expectations, letting people know that because of the weight and the volume of snow that we wouldn't be able to maintain the roads to the level that we normally do for a period of time until we were able to get the plows out there, and then certainly being able to lend assistance to our friends in the county as well. In Belleville, in urban Belleville, I didn't have my power go out or anything like that. It was nice. We had a white Christmas. It was not as dire as certainly was going on in Thurlow at Kathryn's house. But certainly, it was the biggest storm I'd seen, and I had pictures that someone sent me from the county, and I thought, oh, that's nice. They're standing on top of a snowbank. The snowbank was the middle of the road, and the yield sign was up to their knee. I'd never really seen anything like that before, and so obviously the county needed a lot of assistance, and even Main Street Picton still has 5-6 foot tall snowbanks, making it very difficult to access businesses and sidewalks. So. And thanks as well to the transit staff in Belleville. I myself went in the next morning, being the only one who could get in, at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. And I passed a transit bus that was already doing its route at around 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So all the workers, not just in Belleville, Prince Edward County, Quinte West, all parts of the Quinte region, thank you for everything you do, and for the hydro crews, who in some places are still working to restore power to the outlying areas, including some parts by Wapoose Island, which may not be restored for another week or so. We thank you for your ongoing efforts. Speak now. I said new. Not that new, and yet this is the first time I've had the chance to talk to you on the show since the election back in October. So congratulations to both of you. And I was glad not to have just the two of you together because you're both business people, because you're both passionate about improving the city of Belleville, but because you share something else. You ran unsuccessfully in at least one campaign, and this was the first time both of you were actually elected during the campaign. Though, of course, Tyler, you were appointed as a replacement during the course of the last term. So starting with you, Tyler, what was it like for you this time? This was as much as you've already been on council, this was actually the first experience you had being elected, and not just being elected, but being elected first in Ward 1. What was that like? It was much better. Yeah, much. The night goes a lot better when you win than when you lose, you know. I know it was fantastic. I certainly didn't expect that would be the result, number one in the polls. But I think it's a testament to the hard work that's been done over the last couple of years, that people had the opportunity to see me on council after being appointed, and how I conducted myself and that sort of thing as well. And then also ran a very aggressive campaign in terms of door knocking and getting out and meeting people, which was great. But no, it was a great night. I went down to Neil Ellis's campaign party at the Empire Theatre. And at the time, I think it was myself, Chris Millette, and Neil that were there. And all three of us won, and we found out the results at the same time, which was great. 4 years ago, I was with Chris Millette at Sans Souci downtown, and he won and I hadn't. And that's an odd dynamic to manage in the room, right?
Yes.
Half the people are like, yes, and they look at him and go, oh, So it was a much more joyous occasion this time, and certainly very grateful to the people of Belleville for the support, and look forward to getting to work and really living up to that, because it is a big thing to be put number one, and I do take it very seriously.
Kathryn, what was election night like for you?
It was exciting. It's sort of the same. It was like, yes, that things didn't necessarily work out quite as people anticipated, certainly when it came to the mayoral race. I was excited, and luckily I was with my campaign team and their spouses that night. And we were waiting very patiently, having perhaps an adult beverage or two, and just trying to keep the nerves in. And then the system there was a hiccup, and the results were supposed to be released right at 8 o'clock, and they got delayed. So that just sort of made the butterflies a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it was close. But the recollection from my campaign team is we continued to campaign as if we were always 5 votes behind. Right up until the day before the election, we were still knocking on doors and talking with people, assuming that we didn't want to lose by 5 votes. And as I say, it was a close race, but at the end of the day, we were very excited.
Now, especially for you, in Thurlow, 2-3 was quite close between you and Bill Sanderson.
Yes.
I think it was about 50, if I'm not mistaken. So certainly that attitude helped. What was it like at the doors this time? I mean, we're still technically in a COVID period, and people certainly have been really sensitive. And this was possibly the first election, I wouldn't even say the provincial election in the spring, had the same ability to go out, but then how were you received at the doors?
I think it was a mix. One of the things that I was much more conscious of is you go up and you knock at the door and you step back and you wait until the person answers. Some people came to the door and said, I'm sorry, I have COVID, and I say, I'll just leave the material here on your front porch. Other people, come on in. Well, no, I'll just stay out here. You still wanted to interact with people, but you didn't find a lot of handshaking and things going on the campaign trail that you would have normally seen. People were more sensitive to it at the door. I think the candidates were much more sensitive to it as well.
Tyler, how did you find this campaign different? You've run the last 2 elections, so from 2018, 2014.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, and I think part of the reason it was different for me is that my understanding of what was required for a campaign had changed over time, because you learn from those first experiences, certainly. And, the first experience, 2014, I was 21 years old. There was really not a lot of expectation. I did as best as I could, and I ended up, I think, somewhere around 10th place, 2,000 votes. And so then the next campaign was significantly more serious. I thought, okay, we were sort of within striking distance. This one, because I had been on council for 2 years and had been appointed, it was a bit of I don't know if you recall, it's a bit of a messy process at times. And so I felt that I really needed to cement that, I should be on council. And so it was a very, very involved campaign for me. I took 6 weeks off work to just door knock every single day. One of the things that was great at the doors is I did a lot of the door knocking by bike. And so I had my election sign on the front of my bike because, if you're a younger man, beard, that sort of thing, sometimes people aren't sure exactly what's going on when you knock on their door. And so it was nice that I had the sign that they went, oh, okay, I get what's going on. But yeah, there was some trepidation at the doors, and I think Kathryn was exactly right, sort of making space for people. Knock, take a step back so that no one feels that you're crowding them or anything. But I had some interesting ones. I had people answering the door from an upstairs window. You know, I'd hear the window crack open. They go, "Oh, I don't want to come to the door, but you know, why are you here?" And I'd talk to them, you know, through the window. Or I had a family all showed up at the door, and they just waved and said, "We have COVID, but we support you." And I said, "Great, stay in there, and I'll be on my way, no problem at all." Right? So just sort of meeting people where they were and understanding that, you know, it has been a confusing time for people to know what to do should they come out and meet you. But you know, this time I didn't go into anyone's house. You know, in previous campaigns, sometimes people would say, "Oh, do you want to come sit down and we'll talk?" There was less of that. It was much more, "Okay, we're glad to see you. If we have a question or two, we'll do that quickly," and then sort of left you on your way. And only one negative interaction at the door, and it was just someone who didn't want to be bothered.
That's how you got together with family. And we talked about the first few meetings and the first few events. What can you say about the synergy of this council? Because you guys have obviously met, had some planning issues meetings and some individual meetings, swearing in. How is the relationship building going there in terms of coming together as a team? Because there are 3 new members on the team and a new mayor this time. Tyler?
Yeah, well, I think that the so far it's been great. You know, and everything begins with a lot of optimism, and it seemed based on our campaigns that we're all pointing in the same direction. So I think a lot of that collaboration and team building will occur naturally because we pick the same issues and we're passionate about them. But it's early, right? I mean, there's a lot of big decisions to make. People are obviously going to have different opinions about the direction of the city and which way we want to go. So some of that, you know, needs time to flesh out. But I think as a start, it's been really good. You know, we've got a great group of people from, you know, different backgrounds in terms of, you know, journalism and business and all sorts of things. And people that are really respected in the community as well. You know, it's a great group, and I think that we can do a lot of good things together as long as we do intend to do them together. You know, I did the response to the mayor's speech, the inauguration, and one of the things I want to focus on is the fact that no one councillor can do anything by themselves. That, you know, our ability to make change happen comes collectively, and so by working together and focusing on the collective good of the community, we can get a lot done, and I think that's where we're going to go with this.
Kathryn, your impressions as one of the actually 4, if you include Mayor Ellis returning 4 new members of council.
4 new members of council. So I think there was an opportunity in terms of, with 3 of us brand new this time, we'd spent time getting to know each other. Some of us knew each other before the campaign even started. Others we got to know, and we spent time getting to know each other over the course of the campaign. I think that based on what I'm experiencing so far, we're all trying to be supportive of each other in terms of you know, getting things done and helping each other out. I'm not naive enough to expect that we won't at some point knock heads. I wouldn't say butt heads, but knock heads over issues. I know that we have 2 councillors out of Thurlow. I know that Paul and I work really well together. I also know that there are certain issues that we're on very different sides of the coin, and it will make for interesting discussion. I think one of the things I talked about on the campaign trail, and it's something that I do try and practice every day, is there's always a middle ground. There's always a left and there's always a right, but there's always a middle ground. And if we're going to be this far apart, where do we look for the common factors in the middle and move forward? I'm all about wanting to establish relationships and how we move that forward. And this has been a perfect opportunity to do that. And what better time than over a holiday season when everybody's spirits are tended to be a little bit more up anyway. So,
about 10 seconds each now, just for a last question. What message do you want to deliver to people going into this new year?
Well, I think a message of optimism, certainly. I think that the city is in a great position financially. We've got great staff, you know, new directors in different departments, and the outlook is great. So let's move forward with optimism. Let's focus on the things we do well. Let's address the problems as they come, and let's work as a team.
Kathryn?
yeah, the same. I think we have a really positive outlook. I do think we have a strong group of talent around our council table. If I could encourage everybody is to let's allow us to progress, to anticipate where we're going to go. We're not going to solve everything in the first couple of months. It's going to take time, and I just so give us that time.
Thank you. You've been watching Beyond the Politics.